Imagine walking past a homeless man on the street, barely giving him a second glance. Now, picture that same man choosing to give away the little he has to a complete stranger. What if that simple act of kindness set off a chain of events that would change both of their lives forever? On a cold evening, as the city buzzed with people rushing home, a man sitting on the sidewalk noticed a young woman struggling with her purse. She had just dropped her wallet, and before she could react, someone had snatched it and disappeared into the crowd. Panic washed over her face. She had no cash, no ID, nothing. While others walked past too busy or indifferent to help, the homeless man did something no one expected. He reached into his own tattered coat, pulled out a crumpled $20 bill, likely all he had, and pressed it into her hand. The woman hesitated, stunned by his generosity. "I can't take this," she said, shaking her head. But he simply smiled. "You need it more than I do right now." What neither of them knew was that this moment would lead to something far greater than either could imagine. Because hidden in their past was a connection neither of them saw coming, one that would soon be revealed in the most unexpected way. Stay with us, because this story is about to take a turn that will leave you speechless. The woman clutched the worn $20 bill in her trembling fingers, her mind racing. She had never expected kindness to come from someone who had so little. The weight of the situation pressed down on her. Without her wallet, she had no way to get home, no way to even buy a meal. Yet here was this man, giving her his last bit of money as if it meant nothing to him. She swallowed hard, torn between gratitude and guilt. "I'll pay you back," she promised. I need to figure things out." The man only nodded. "Just take care of yourself," he said, before turning his gaze back to the busy sidewalk, as if retreating into the invisibility he had grown used to. But the woman couldn't just walk away. Something about him seemed familiar, though she couldn't place why. His voice, his eyes, there was something there, something just out of reach in her memory. She took a deep breath and made a decision. "Can I buy you something to eat?" she asked. He hesitated, glancing at her, then at the money still in her hand. "You don't have to do that." "I know," she said, already stepping toward a nearby diner. "But I want to." The man followed reluctantly, and together they slipped into the warm glow of the small restaurant. The scent of fresh coffee and sizzling food filled the air, and for the first time in what felt like forever, he felt like a regular person again. They took a seat in the corner, and as the woman ordered a meal for them both, she studied him, trying to piece together the feeling gnawing at her. Between bites of food, the man finally spoke. "What's your name?" She hesitated for a fraction of a second before answering. He nodded, staring down at his plate. "I used to know someone with that name," he said softly. "A long time ago." The words sent a strange chill through her, but before she could ask anything, the diner door swung open, and a man in a dark coat stepped inside, scanning the room. The woman's heart nearly stopped. She recognized him instantly. The thief. The one who had taken her wallet. She grabbed the homeless man's arm. "That's him," she whispered urgently. His eyes flicked toward the man, and something flashed across his face: recognition. Not just as the thief, but as someone from his past. Someone he had known. The tension in the air thickened as the thief locked eyes with them, realizing he had been spotted. He turned on his heel and bolted out the door, disappearing into the night. The woman's pulse pounded. "We have to do something," she said. But the homeless man looked shaken, his hands clenched into fists. "I know him," he murmured. She stared at him. "What?" His voice was hoarse. "That man. He used to be my friend." The revelation sent a shock through her, but before she could process it, the man stood abruptly. "Stay here," he said, pushing away from the table. "Wait, where are you going?" He didn't answer. He was already out the door, vanishing into the same darkness that had swallowed the thief. The woman sat frozen, staring at the empty doorway where the homeless man had just disappeared. The warmth of the diner seemed to fade around her, the flickering neon lights outside casting eerie shadows against the windows. What had just happened? Her mind raced with questions, and 1,000 thoughts collided in her head. How could he know the thief? Why hadn't he told her? And why had he left so suddenly without explaining anything? The world outside the diner seemed to slow down, as if everything was suspended in time, waiting for something to give. She took a deep breath and tried to calm herself, but her hands were trembling. She couldn't just sit here and do nothing. He shook his head. I made my choices too. I ended up here, and he ended up, well, there. But we've never really been free of each other. Not in the way that matters. He took a step closer. He's always been a part of me, and I've always wondered if I could have stopped him. If I could have been there for him when he needed someone. The woman felt a wave of compassion wash over her. She had come into this story thinking she needed help, but in reality, they were both caught in the same struggle. Two people, both broken in their own way, trying to survive in a world that seemed too indifferent to care. I don't know what you'll do now, she said, her voice quiet. But I know you're not the person he is. You're not him. You don't have to be. He looked at her for a long moment before his gaze softened, and for the first time, a hint of a smile tugged at the corner of his lips. Maybe, he said. Maybe there's still time to fix things. The two of them stood there in silence, the weight of the moment hanging heavy in the air. The city around them buzzed with life, but for those few minutes, it felt as if they were the only two people left in the world. Finally, the homeless man spoke again, his voice low but firm. I have to do this. I need to find him, talk to him. I can't let him destroy himself over this. Maybe we both need to start over. For good. The woman nodded, understanding now. I'll help you, she said, her words strong with conviction. Whatever it takes. Together, they walked down the street side by side, neither of them knowing exactly what the next step would be, but both of them determined to face whatever came next. They didn't have all the answers, but for the first time in a long time, they knew they didn't have to face this alone. As the night stretched on, the two of them made their way through the city, following the faint trail of memories, pain, and regret that had brought them here. The journey ahead was uncertain, but they both knew that whatever happened, it would be different from the lives they had left behind. And in the end, that was enough.